I'm making rafters today for a little cabin I'm building, and there's lots of ways to lay out these rafters. I'll show you how I do it. Come on in the shop. You can either build trusses or you can do what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a ridge board right at the top there, and then I'll cut out these two sections, these two rafters that will be nailed into that ridge board. I drew a rectangle here to represent my building. It's 8 feet wide and 16 feet long. And I decided on a 6/12 pitch. And so what you do is you take your square and you find 6 on that small section of the square and 12 on the big section. So you got 6/12. And I'll show you a close-up. There's 6. Then you go down here, and there's 12 on the outside of the square. Get that lined up just right, and then draw a line. That'll be where it connects to the ridge board. Now, as I mentioned, my building is 8 feet wide, and that ridge board will run right down the center at 4 feet. And so you're going to step off, what they call step off, down this 2x6 4 times. You've got 4 feet, so you'll go down 4 times. Now what I do is I line up that 6 and 12 as I go along, and I make a mark. And I also make a mark at the 12 right there. Then when I slide my square down, I line that up again on that mark, 6 and 12. I do that 4 times. So there's my mark right there that'll go against the ridge board, and I go down 4 times. I'm going to make my last one right here, and that'll be right at the edge of the outside of the building. That'll be where that sets on the building. Well, now we have to figure our overhang. I decided on a 12-inch overhang, and so I'm going to mark that right at 12 inches. And then I'll lay my square up on there at that same angle, 6/12. There we go. There's 6. Down at the other end is 12. And I'll draw a line. And that'll make that, as it goes up to the ridge board, that'll make that line plumb to the ground. So there we go. 2, 3, and there's 4. That's where it sits on the building. And then the overhang. Okay, so right there's where it sits on the building. And we're going to cut out what they call a bird's mouth. So there's where it sits on the wall. That's your overhang. So right here is where we're going to cut that bird's mouth. So my 2x6 is 5.5 inches wide, and you take 1/3 of that, which turns out to be 1 7/8 inches, and you measure up that line where it's sitting on the wall and make a mark. Now we're going to take our square and we're going to set on 6/12 again. 6 on the right hand there and 12 on my left, and I line it up on the inside of the square right on that mark. You'll see when I go to draw my line right there. Right there is where the mark is, so I draw my line. That's the part we're going to cut out. That's the bird's mouth. So again, that's 1 7/8 inches right there, and that's the section that we're going to cut out. So we've got the ridge cut, then we're going down 1, 2, stepping down to 3, one more step down to 4. That's where it sits on the wall. There's the bird's mouth, and there's the overhang. That's the bird's mouth. There's one more thing that we have to do. Now these two sections, rafter sections, are not going to butt up against each other. They're butting up against the ridge board. My ridge board is 1.5 inches wide. It'll be a 2x8 up there. So you take half of that distance, which is 3/4 of an inch, draw a new line, and that's the section you cut out. Now I'll cut out the bird's mouth. You want to make very accurate cuts here, because when you get done, this ridge board will this rafter that you're cutting out will be your template for all the rest of them. And I've got a handy little saw. It's called a shark tooth saw that I use to finish off this cut. Got some really sharp teeth on that thing. Cuts great. So there's the bird's mouth. Now we'll make our last cut down at the bottom at the overhang. Now I'll stand this thing up. There's the bird's mouth. That'll sit right on the wall like that. Give you a lot more area to nail into that plate on the wall. So now you have your template. There it is. And you just lay it out on all of your 2x6s. Mark your lines and cut them out. That way all of your rafters will be the same. I've got to cut out 26 of these. Now, like I said, there's lots of ways to make rafters. Online you can find a rafter calculator that will give you all your dimensions and so on. It'll even provide templates for you. But with this simple little technique that I use, you can make your own rafters for whatever size building that you're working on. If you like my video, please consider subscribing and hit the like button.